Welcome back to Canada Hot Talks. I'm Stephen Feldman on Roundhouse 983. Our next guest is Sam Coiro, who is the Senior Vice President of Sales and Strategic Partners at Cannabis MedTech. Good morning, Sam. Thanks for joining us on Canada Hot Talks.
Good morning, Stephen. Thanks for having me.
Well, great. Well, Sam, if you listen to the previous guests with Chris, he was mentioning that you're going to go into a government store and you're not going to know what to buy or what it is. Can I see it? What kind of product it is? And you were telling me, look, you guys are data driven. You're going to help people guide people, medicinal users of what do I use or where do I get it or what kind of product. So I think this is very interesting. Maybe tell a little bit of listeners a bit more about this patient-centric life science learning platform that you've developed.
Absolutely. Thanks again for the opportunity. So let me just spend about 30 seconds or so giving you a little bit of a backdrop. So you're right. We're a business technology company. We play in the cannabis health sciences space. And what we do is we build customer-centric solutions that really enable our partners to harness the power of data. And you mentioned data. So data is going to be a very important theme to our discussion today. And then this data allows our partners and our business associates to scale for them to become industry leaders as well. So we've got a product that we've launched, or that's launching, called Cannvas Me. So this is a patient-centric platform. And this platform allows practitioners, patients, clinics, LPs, research organizations, and go on to really define the face of cannabis education. So the way that we like to think about it is Cannvas Me is really the intersection between education and knowledgeable consumption. So you brought the point up earlier of maybe a newbie or an individual walks into a clinic or walks into a retail store and doesn't really know what to buy. And this is the importance of something like Cannvas Me. It allows that individual to really become educated about not only what types of strains or product or methods for ingestion and consumption are out there, but which ones specifically are best suited to his or her lifestyle characteristics and or preferences.
Right. And look, there's so many people that, who, if you're reading about this space and you're reading about all the articles and the news stories and the data about CBD, THC, cannabis for medicinal reasons, yes, you read it, you can understand that there is definitely the data out there that correlate and that substantiates this, but it leaves the reader asking, I get this question all the time, well, what is it? Where do I get it? What product should I use? Like, it leaves you looking for, you don't know what to do after. So this sounds like something that's the kind of people that should go and look at Cannvas Me,
Yes, absolutely. It's people that want to learn and become educated, and for all the points that you just described. And it's also a platform for people that perhaps have knowledge and want to share that knowledge with others. So the way that the platform works, it's very interactive. And it's a point-based type of system. So the more that you interact, the more you provide commentary, the more you read, the more you do research, the more you educate yourself. In turn, you actually get points for doing that. So it's very conducive to user engagement, and it's purposely done that way such that we can have a very nice community of individuals going back and forth, sharing information, of course, with themselves and, of course, with various research or educational pieces that we're publishing and we're showing onto the site. Now, what's really interesting about that is, we're talking specifically about an individual in a specific geolocation, so let's call it Toronto, and then that person walking into a clinic or a retail store to buy a product. Well, what happens if that person travels to Vancouver or they go overseas, perhaps to Australia or to Germany, and they want to consume the product in that particular location? Well, the platform is very contextual, and it's based on geolocation. So now, if you launch your platform or your app and you happen to be in Germany, the platform knows that you've been educating yourself and you've been researching particular strains for a particular ailment, let's say. So when you arrive in Germany, the first thing you're going to see in your app is, hey, user, there are 4 or 5 clinics within X distance of where you currently are standing that actually contain strains very similar to what you've historically been consuming that treat the ailments that you've historically been having. Does that make sense?
Well, it makes a lot of sense. And look, there's so many people who use this product for medicinal use, and they get a lot of anxiety if they have to go away or travel because they know they can't bring this product through the border with them or through the airports or et cetera. And it does cause a great deal of concern if you're traveling and you don't know where to get your medicine or something that will treat your condition. So that is, a fabulous kind of addition to what you're doing. Now, tell us a bit more about the company itself and with its recent transaction with a pubco called Puff Ventures on the CSE, and that they've and the deal that Cannvas MedTech has transacted with them.
Yes, sir. So we've got a joint venture with Puff going on, that certainly. And what that allows us to do is to really share information between organizations. I mean, they're a great organization. They've been collecting a lot of data, and obviously data that's vital to our platform. So what we've done is we've established a partnership that allows us to exchange that information between our entities, and then, of course, enhance, learn, and then enrich the data for future use, in a nutshell.
Right. Now, for yourselves, though, and part of that deal you did with them is that Puff distributed a spin out, let's say, of their holdings in MedTech. So there looks like you will be, Cannvas MedTech will be its own publicly listed company, correct?
That is correct. In fact, we are currently in the process of finalizing paperwork, and we hope to be listed on the CSE soon under the symbol MTEC. We are also looking at listing in Frankfurt as well as on one of the U.S. exchanges. So our team is feverishly working with all of the various, institutional government bodies and all of the regulators to make sure that, we're crossing our T's and dotting our I's. And again, our goal is to go CSE first very shortly in the future, and then followed by the U.S. and then eventually Frankfurt, or in no specific order, but CSE certainly first.
Right. Correct. Now with that and the platform you're developed, is this are you looking for people for just in Canada, or is this a platform where that you hope to attract like worldwide attention and get a global feedback?
Right. So I mentioned earlier the whole concept of being based on contextual and GeoIP capabilities. So out of the gate, the goal has always been to be global. I mean, look, at the end of the day, people live in 220 different countries, and they're consuming product, where it's legally allowed to do so in many of those countries. So the thought when we built the platform was, well, why limit ourselves to Canada when consumption of cannabis is something that is taking place at a global level? No different than drinking water. I mean, everybody drinks water regardless of where they are in the world. So we built it in that capacity. And we've actually formed partnerships with various medical advisory boards in a number of different countries already, because each country, of course, is going to have different LPs, and they're going to provide different strains, and those strains are going to treat different ailments, and they're going to have different effects, on your psyche or on your body, et cetera. So we wanted to make sure that we were able to collect data and information from a variety of sources from a number of different countries, such that individuals in those countries could literally benefit from the use of the platform, whether they be in Germany or in Australia or the U.S. or Canada or many other countries to come.
Right, because I would assume then also, if it's a global reach and people use this, globally as well, that when let's say they come to Canada, that your platform will also advise them on where they can get their medicine as well, correct?
Exactly. And actually, Steve, if you don't mind, I can actually take you through, for example, a typical life cycle of an individual, just so the audience can get a perspective of how this would work. So let's use the case of an athlete. So an athlete perhaps has an acute knee pain or perhaps a back pain that he or she has been treating with legal over-the-counter or prescription medication in order to ensure that they're able to perform at their whatever the sport they're in. So this individual may now, be thinking about using a cannabis-based product or a CBD or an oil or something of that nature to treat the same ailment. But, to the point we made earlier, they have no idea about, which strain to use and how to consume it. So they would come to the platform and they would create a profile. And in that initial touch point, we would be requesting some specific pieces of information. So they would define and describe their lifestyle characteristics, what are they looking for? Is it pain management? Is it anxiety, like you mentioned earlier, and so on? So now we've got this profile of this particular athlete. Based on the data of the strains and based on feedback, so non-PII, non-personally identifiable information, which is aggregated and amalgamated, we're now coming back to this individual to say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Athlete, based on your condition, call it knee pain, these are the types of strains that typically do well to treat that particular ailment, and these are the ingestion methods that are best recorded. So whether it's a topical cream or it's a patch or whatever the case may be. So now this individual feels a little bit more confident in the decision-making process. So they might go to their practitioner, or they may go to a location and they may actually buy a product that we would have potentially suggested. So this individual now likes the product, it's working well. As I mentioned earlier, they're going to come back to the platform, they're going to interact, they're going to share their story. But now the athlete is going to, Japan or Italy or France for an event. And that athlete knows that they cannot bring their particular product with them. When they come into the specific country, the app is going to tell them, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Athlete, the strain that you've been using in Canada, there's a very similar strain here in, country X, and it's got the similar ingestion method. Here's the clinic where you can go and get it. So now that athlete has confidence that their particular ailment will be treated and they can manage it in a specific country legally, and we will provide all the information to them to allow them to go and make that purchase.
Wow. That's
kind of the life cycle.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. Listen, we're going to take a quick break, Sam, and we're going to,
Sure.
come back, and maybe you'll tell the listeners about, the revenue potentials and the opportunity that exist in this market. So you're listening to Canada Pot Talks on Roundhouse 983.
Vancouver to me is grabbing a couple of tall boys and sitting at Spanish Banks watching the sunset over the North Shore.
Vancouver to me is going to amazing concerts at Rogers Arena and just rocking out and singing and dancing and just letting loose, enjoying that whole environment.
Vancouver to me is Roundhouse Radio.
Roundhouse Radio.
Roundhouse Radio, 98.3 Vancouver. Our city, your voice.
Welcome back to Canada Pot Talks. I'm Stephen Feldman. We're with Sam Coiro, Senior Vice President, Sales and Strategic Partnerships with Cannvas MedTech. Now, Sam, as I mentioned earlier, Puff Ventures, a pubco here in Canada, has distributed 100% of their common shares of MedTech to its shareholders in a pro rata formation. So Puff has transferred those assets over. There are shares in people's accounts of Cannvas MedTech from this spin-out. So what's the game plan going forward? We know you're going to list. So if that's the case, the natural question is, where's the opportunity here for people to take a look at this once it's listed?
Right. So one of my favorite topics, right? Because everyone always asks, well, where's the money?
Well,
so let's kind of dive into that a little bit. Sorry, were you going to ask a question before?
No, go ahead. No, that is, listen, from investors' point of view, people who participate in the markets, of course, that is the question is you talk about this fabulous platform. Where's the opportunity then for people once you're listed to take a look at this company?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, first of all, anyone at this time can certainly go to canvasmedtech.com. So that's Cannvas with 2 N's, medtech.com, and there's a lot of information there that's already available. I want to talk a little bit about the way that we generate dollars, and feel free to ask questions at any time. So our company is structured in a way that allows us to enjoy multiple revenue streams. So I'll start from the smallest stream, and I'll kind of work my way up so that there's a good perspective. So we've actually got Cannvas Creative, which is an in-house agency. Believe it or not, we have a lot of experience in the digital space as it relates to media marketing and advertising. And we've already signed a number of contracts with a number of organizations in the cannabis space, of course, that are leveraging our services to help them create their image for the public. Okay. So that's a really, really nice business for us, and it's just kind of something that we're doing because we love to do it. So leading out from that, we've got Cannvas Me, which I've discussed. So Cannvas Me, the first thing I want to call out here is that it's actually free to use for any user. So any individual, whether it's an athlete or just a private citizen that wants to educate themselves, it's 100% free to use. But the revenue that we generate, it comes from a number of points. So number one, there are advertising dollars that are generated based on obviously partners wanting to get in front of the eyeballs that we've got on the platform. And what's nice about that is because it's geolocated and contextual, advertisements and placements could obviously be dictated by specific geography. So that's really, really nice. All of the interactions with the platform are then feeding into a database, which we're essentially collecting. And this is really where the dollars are. The data in and of itself, I mean, based on our projections, I mean, by 2022 or 23, we're projecting that the data is going to be around 50x value over any other revenue stream that we've got in our organization, because the data itself is what's valuable. And if someone is asking the question, well, why is the data so valuable? Well, think of it from this perspective. There are a lot of research organizations out there that are in need of data to help better refine their research process. So there's a revenue stream that we're creating with them. Then there's the LPs themselves. The LPs, obviously, they know about their own strains, and they're probably doing some competitive intelligence. But now you've got a widespread user database of users of all walks of life for all different conditions that are providing contextual information about their consumption patterns or habits and their success rates. That data in and of itself is very, very valuable to organizations such that they can better define and refine their products and what their go-to-market strategies are.
Right. Well, data is,
perhaps
we live in this environment of the value of data, be it, on Facebook, Google, all this data is collected, and that's where these guys capitalize on that, and it sounds like that's part of your model.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, if you look at the years of data science experience that our team has, I mean, you wouldn't believe it for such a young company. But purposely, we built our company around data. I mean, really, there's a saying in the office that we want to be the stats can of cannabis data, and really that's what we're working towards. And where we are right now, I mean, we're in a very, very good position. We've got a lot of good data. There's a lot of good data of ours being used already through various clinics and LPs and producers and growers, and the data is just getting richer. The more people that use the platform, the richer the data becomes, and the more valuable it becomes.
Well, that's positive. So listen, again, give us the address. Where can people go and help you and give you some of this data? What's your website then?
Sure. We can be found at Cannvas, so it's Cannvas, medtech.com. As I mentioned, there's a lot of information there already. We can also be found, hopefully very soon, on the CSC under the symbol MTEC.
Okay. Well, you know what, Sam, thanks for coming on the show. I think it's very timely. Certainly, this seems like a platform that I think is needed because it's going to answer a lot of questions and direct a lot of people to the right places and the right products that there are so many people questioning on what they're going to do or where do I get this or how can I use it and what is it for me? And so this sounds like this is the solution. So, Sam, appreciate you coming on the show and informing our listeners of this platform.
Stephen, thank you. And listen, thank you for all the work that you do because you yourself are helping educate people. So we thank you for that and all the best.
I appreciate that.
For the rest of the week.
I appreciate it. Thanks, Sam. And you've been listening to Canada Pot Talks. I'm Stephen Feldman on Roundhouse 983.